Hello, hello, welcome back. Lanita, the scrappy grandma here. This is our Torah portion or our Bible study playlist. And we are on week 39, Chukat, Chukat, meaning statute, like statutes, ordinances, laws, commandments. It's Numbers 19:1 through 22:1. And then the Haftorah is Judges 11:1 through 33. And the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, is John 2:1 through 12. So let's begin. Let's have a little conversation with the Father. Father God, thank you so much for this time that we can set aside to get together to feast on your word. Let it be profitable for all that hear. Bless this time. Open ears to hear and eyes to see, and show us what it is you'd like to reveal to us in your word, through your word. Father, take care of all the technology issues and the time constraints. You are in control of all of these things, and we can trust you that everything will be done as it's supposed to be done. In Yahusha's mighty name. Amen. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick overview here. There's a lot of stuff going on in this portion. We've got Miriam's death. We've got the red heifer. We've got Moses striking the rock. Got lots of stuff going on here. So says last week's Torah established the authority of Moses, not Reuben, which would have been, the firstborn, should have been, but it establishes last week is Moses' authority as the leader of Israel, and the authority of Aaron as the Cohen, the priests, and not the other sons of Korah. So remember, if last week, Aaron's rod budded and all of that. God chose the priestly line. The Israelites were warned to keep their distance from the priestly duties and to allow the appointed representatives of Yahuwah intercede on their behalf. And so then this here, it's got the red heifer, like I said. What else does it here? The death of Miriam and Moses' sin at Meribah. And War of let's see. That might be the Haftorah. Anyway, let's get started. I've got a lot going on. My 8-year-old grandson's here, and I just took him and the little neighbor boy that he goes to homeschool co-op with, to VBS, Vacation Bible School, on one of the local churches here. So I've got a little bit of time before I have to go and pick them up. Yes, so let's begin. Okay, Numbers 19:1. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying, this is the law of the Torah, which Yahuwah has commanded, saying, speak to the children of Israel that are bringing you a red heifer, a perfect one, in which there is no blemish and on which the yoke has never come. So we know that there's 5 of them right now in Israel being inspected that were sent in a couple years ago from Texas, for them to rebuild the third temple, or to build the third temple. And you shall give it to Eleazar, the priest, Aaron's son, and he shall bring it outside of the camp and shall slay it before him. And Eleazar the priest shall take some of its blood with his finger and sprinkle some of its blood 7 times towards the front of the tent of appointment. And the heifer shall be burned before his eyes. He burns its hide and its flesh and its blood and its dung, so the whole thing. And the priest shall take cedar wood and hyssop and scarlet. That takes us back to the dove sacrifice, where they had the hyssop and the cedar wood and the scarlet, same thing, scarlet thread, and throw them into the midst of the fire, burning the heifer. So that's important. So I'm going to study those out. And I'm sure I probably did and just don't remember. The priest shall then wash his garments and shall bathe his body in water, and afterwards come into the camp. But the priest is unclean until evening, because he touched a dead carcass. And he who is burning it washes his garments, which is interesting. So because he took it out of the camp and killed it, it's different than the regular offerings. And he who is burning it washes his garments in water, and he shall bathe his body in water, and is unclean until evening. And a clean man shall gather up the ashes of the heifer, and shall place them outside the camp of the clean place. And they shall be kept for the congregation of the children of Israel for the water for uncleanliness. It is for cleansing from sin. And he who gathers the ashes of the heifer shall wash his garments and is unclean until evening. And it shall be a law forever to the children of Israel and to the sojourner who sojourns in their midst. So not just bloodborne, grafted in. He who touches the dead body of any human being is unclean for 7 days. He is to cleanse himself with the water from the red heifer, the ashes, on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day he is clean. But if he does not cleanse himself on the 3rd day, then on the 7th day he is not clean. Anyone who touches the dead of a human being and does not cleanse himself defiles the dwelling place of Yahuwah. Oh, wait a minute. He wouldn't be unclean from touching the red heifer, because they do that. I mean, they kill bulls and things. Those are all clean animals. So it's just the unclean that they can't touch with the carcass. Sorry. Anyone who touches the dead of a human being and does not cleanse himself defiles the dwelling place of Yahuwah, and that being shall be cut off from Israel. He is unclean, for the water for uncleanliness was not sprinkled on him. His uncleanliness is still upon him. Uncleanness. This is the Torah. This is the instructions. When a man dies in a tent, all who come into the tent and all who are in the tent are unclean for 7 days. And every open vessel which has no cover fastened on it is unclean. Anyone in the open field who touches someone slain by a sword who has died, or a bone of a man, or a burial site, is unclean for 7 days. So I wonder, like, cemeteries, those are burial sites. If we go to a cemetery, my husband's family, they have burial plots in town, and we just actually buried his mother's urn over on top of his father's casket. And so interesting. Who touches someone slain by a sword who has died, or a bone of a man, or a burial site is unclean for 7 days. And for the unclean being, they shall take some of the ashes of the heifer burnt for cleansing from sin and running water, and shall put them in a vessel, and a clean man shall take hyssop and dip it in the water, and shall sprinkle it on the tent and on all the vessels and all the beings who were there, and on the one who touches a bone, or the slain, or the dead, or a burial site. And the clean one shall sprinkle the unclean on the 3rd day and on the 7th day, and on the 7th day he shall cleanse himself, and shall wash his garments and bathe in water, and shall be clean until in the evening. Shall be clean in the evening. But the man who is unclean does not cleanse himself, that being shall be cut off from among the assembly, because he has defiled the set apart place of Yahuwah. Water for uncleanness, its uncleanness, has not been sprinkled on him, he is unclean. And it shall be a law for them forever. And the one who sprinkles the water for uncleanness washes his garment, and the one who touches the water for uncleanness is unclean until evening. Isn't it interesting? The water makes you clean, but if you touch it, you're And I was listening to Holissa, someone I listen to who studies these out, learn a lot. And she was talking about the different commandments, statutes, and ordinances. And there's this one, and it has a Hebrew name that I can't remember, but they're the ones that don't make logical sense to us. Like this whole red heifer, it doesn't make sense, because here the water is used to make them clean, and one who touches the water for uncleanness is unclean until evening. It's just, and then how she said it is there's a certain category that just makes no logical sense, and those are the ones where we have to just believe that he has a purpose. Like mixing linen and wool. Now we now know that linen and wool have super high frequencies and they bring health to our body, but if we put them together, they cancel each other out, and then that brings unhealth, illness, and just the body's not operating at its peak in harmony. So I know that sounded really woo-woo, but anyway, I do believe, it makes perfect sense that the Father everything would have electrical frequencies. Makes perfect sense to me. But we don't know his true purpose for not mixing linen and wool together. We can speculate and try to get logical about it, but we don't know. Just like this red heifer, it makes no sense. So that's a certain kind. There's 3 kinds. One that's like a testimony, historical, like, Pesach, to remember the Passover. And then the next one were like, the logical, don't murder, don't kill, don't commit adultery, don't do those things, those logical ones. And then there's those illogical ones. So anyway, and at 20, and the children of Israel, all the congregation, came into the wilderness of Sin in the first new moon, and the people stayed at Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. Now there was no water for the congregation, and they assembled against Moshe and against Aharon. So there's a whole big study on this, because that's like one time frame. Miriam died, and there's this whole thing with, anyway, if you want to do some studies like on, the spring of Miriam and the water from the rock and all of that. So, and the people contended with Moshe and spoke, saying, if only we had died and our brothers died before. And from what I understand, this now, is many more years in, that I have to look at the timeline, because just what the last portion, the portion before, they had only been there a year now, and then they had to turn back into the wilderness. And I don't know how much time has passed at this point. So, but anyway, Miriam died there. Now there was no water for the congregation. See, which is really interesting. Miriam died there, and there was something about a spring of Miriam, and they had water, and then when she died, the water dried up. And then they contended with Moshe, if only we had died when our brothers died before Yahuwah. Really? Why have you brought up the assembly of Yahuwah into the wilderness, that we and our livestock should die here? They've spent all this time. Their food has been provided to them. Their water's been provided to them. Their clothes aren't wearing out. Their shoes aren't wearing out. Their feet aren't swelling from fatigue. Nobody's. They're dying, but they're protected and provided for. And all of a sudden, let's complain. Oh, doom and gloom. Things aren't going our way. Now let's go back and, we should have died. And I was like, really? Although I honestly done the same thing. That's something I really work hard on, is being thankful and grateful, living in the moment and being thankful and grateful what I have right now, and how he has provided perfectly for my needs every day, every moment. Just working on that mindset. So, why have you brought us out of and why have you brought us up out of Mitzrayim to bring us to this evil place, not a place of grain and figs or vines and pomegranates, and there is no water to drink? Well, if you guys wouldn't have come back with the evil report, you'd have been eating figs and pomegranates by now. But then Moshe, this is someone who actually who walked through the wilderness for 40 years. I was saved over 40 years ago, and literally walked in the wilderness until a couple years ago, when the Father opened my eyes to Torah and his commandments and how it all ties together. And then it was like, wow. And it's kind of like the children of Israel. When they observed the Torah and they honored the Torah and they guarded the Torah, life went well for them and things clicked and they had peace and they were provided for. And then when they didn't, because all through my Christian life, I didn't, all this was done away with. I didn't have to do it. And my life, I was tormented and didn't go well until now I have peace because I observe the instructions and learn of him through his instructions. But I walked in the wilderness for 40 plus years. And Moshe and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly to the door of the tent of appointment, and they fell on their faces, once again, humbly fell before Yahuwah. And the esteem of Yahuwah appeared to them. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, take the rod and assemble the congregation, you and your brother Aaron, and you shall speak to the rock before their eyes. Now he said, you shall speak to the rock before their eyes, and it shall give its water. So he was only supposed to speak to the rock. And I know this seems so extreme, and it's one of those cases where it's like, Father, but he had to set an example. We're so easily able to treat him commonly and without reverence. And he's like, so, and you shall bring the water for them out of the rock and give drink to the congregation and their livestock. And Moshe took the rod from before Yahuwah as he had commanded him. And Moshe and Aaron assembled the assembly before the rock, and he said to them, hear now, you rebels. He's a little ticked off. Shall we bring water for you out of this rock? So he's taking credit. He's putting himself in a position of, do I have to do this for you because you're complaining? Boy, I'm sorry, Father. I definitely have that attitude a lot. Please forgive me. Then Moshe lifted his hand and he struck the rock twice with his rod. He was only asked to speak to the rock. And this is just like Nahab and anyway, Aaron's the firstborn sons who offered strange fire in their incense. It seems so extreme for something so small, but I'm listening to a thing on Noah. Moshe and Aaron and his sons, the priests, they're all given a high position and high status. So much more is required of them, especially in treating the things of Yahuwah as holy. And he takes credit for it, and then he gets angry and he hits it. And much water came out, and the congregation and their livestock drank. But Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, because you did not believe me to set me apart in the eyes of the children of Israel. Had he gone to the rock and he had said, Yahuwah has commanded me to command you to put forth water, then Yahuwah would get all the glory. However, but instead he was like, you rebels, do I have to get water out of this rock for you? Smack, smack. See the difference in letting Yahuwah get the glory for provision, or taking it upon himself for this provision. So, and this is where it says here, because you did not believe me and set me apart, keep me as holy in the eyes of the children of Israel. Therefore, you do not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them. These were the waters of Meribah, because the children of Israel contended with Yahuwah, and he was set apart among them. And Moshe sent messengers from Kadesh to the sovereign of Edom. This is what your brother Israel said. You know all the hardships that have befallen us, that our fathers went down to Mitzrayim, and we dwelt in Mitzrayim a long time, and the Mitzrayites did evil to us and our fathers, and we cried out to Yahuwah, and he heard our voice, and he sent the messenger and brought us up out of Mitzrayim and said, we are Kadesh, a city on the edge of your border. Please let us pass over through your land. We shall not pass over through the fields or the vineyards, nor drink the water from the wells. We shall go along the sovereign's highway. We shall not turn aside right or to the left until we have passed over your border. But Edom said to him, you do not pass over through me, lest I come out against you with the sword. And the children of Israel said to him, we shall go by the highway, and if I or my livestock drink any of your water, then we shall pay for it. Let me only pass over on foot without a word. But he said, you do not pass over. And Edom came out against them with many men and with a strong hand. So then Edom refused to let Israel pass over through his borders. Israel turned away from him. So they, had to go a different way. And the children of Israel and all the company departed from Kadesh and came to Mount Hor. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron and in Mount Hor near the border of the land of Edom, saying, Aaron is to be gathered to his people, for he is not to enter the land which I have given to the children of Israel, because you rebelled against my mouth at the water of Mirabeth. And take Aaron and Eleazar his son, and bring them up to Mount Hor, and strip Aaron of his garments, and put them on Eleazar his son, for Aaron is to be gathered to his people and die there. And Moshe did as Yahuwah commanded, and they went up to Mount Hor before the eyes of all the congregation. And Moshe stripped Aaron of his garments and put them on Eleazar, the priestly garments, his son, and Aaron died there on the top of the mountain. And Moshe and Eleazar came down from the mountain, and when all the congregation that Aaron was dead, all the house of Israel wept for Aaron 30 days. And the sovereign of Arad, I love how he lets them know, okay, your time is coming to an end. And, they're able to reconcile. It's like, okay, my time here on earth is done. Just instead of just always random not knowing, it's so cool that he gives them and lets them know this is your time. It's over. Do these things and then go rest. So, and the sovereign of Arad, the Canaanite who dwelt in the south, heard that Israel was coming on the way to Etharim, and he fought against Israel and took some of them captive. It's interesting, and I don't have tons of time, but a little rabbit trail. One of the things that really was interesting in learning is that, because I always wondered, why is Yahuwah having Israel go in and take all this land away from these people? And people today are still thinking the same thing, with the whole Palestine and all of that. And that land was back all the way to Noah. That land was already the inheritance of Shem, who is the bloodline of the Israelites. And Ham, who had Canaan, they went and took the land. They weren't satisfied with the land they were given in the south. They went up and they took the land that was the inheritance of Shem. And this is all they're doing, is all of these years later since Noah, is they're taking their land back. That was their inheritance that was stolen from them. So I just thought that was really interesting, and it made so much more sense to my brain. So here, this is a Canaanite. So this is from the bloodline of Ham, who dwelt in the south, heard of Israel coming, and he sent out, and they took some of them captive. And then Israel made a vow to Yahuwah and said, if you deliver this people unto my hand, indeed, then I shall put their cities under the ban, meaning, and Yahuwah listened to the voice of Israel. So, they made a vow to him and asked for this. And he listened to the voice of Israel and gave up the Canaanites, and then put them and their cities under the ban. So the name of the place was called Hormah. And they departed from Mount Hor, from the way of the Sea of Reeds, to go around the land of Edom. But the being of the people grew impatient because of the way. They're tired of being in the wilderness. And the people spoke against Elohim and against Moshe. Why have you brought us up out of Mitzrayim to die in the wilderness? For there's no food and no water, and our being loathes this light bread. So their beings loathe the manna that's miraculous, the food of the angels. And Yahuwah sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people. And many, they had the thing with the whole thing, not with the quail, and maybe it's generations later, and they forgot. So Yahuwah sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and many of the people of Israel died. And the people came to Moshe and said, we have sinned, For we have spoken against Yahuwah and against you. Pray to Yahuwah and take away the serpents from us. So Moshe prayed on the behalf of the people, and Yahuwah said to Moshe, make a fiery serpent and set it on a pole, and it shall be that everyone who is bitten, when he looks at it, shall live. And this is kind of prophetic of Yahusha up on the pole, and you look on him and you're be saved. So Moshe made a bronze serpent and put it on a pole, and it came to be, if a serpent had bitten anyone, he had looked at the bronze serpent and lived. I mean, think about it. The serpent bites at our heels, and we look to the pole with our Savior, and we are healed. And the children of Israel set out and camped at Oboth. And they departed from Oboth, and they camped at Ha-Arabim in the wilderness, which is east of Moab, toward sunrise. Then there they set out, and they camped at the Wadi Zerad. And from there they set out and camped on the other side of the Arnon, which is in the wilderness that extends from the border of the Amorites, for the Arnon is the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. Therefore it is said in the book of the battles of Yahuwah, wonder where that book is, the book of the battles of Yahuwah, Wahab in Safa, the Wadi Arnon. Man, see, those are the books. Wherever they say about a book, I was like, where's that book? I want to read it. So, and the slope of the wadi that turns aside to the dwelling of Ar and lies on the border of Moab, and there on the border, which is the well where Yahuwah said to Moshe, gather the people and let me give them water. Israel then sang this song, spring up, O well, sing to it. And a well the leaders sank, which the nobles of the people dug with their staves by the word of the inscriber, then from the wilderness on to Mahana. From Mahana to Nephtali, from Nephtali to Bamoth, and from Bamoth in the valley that is in the country of Moab, to the top of Pisgah, which looks down on the wasteland. And Israel sent messengers to Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, saying, let me pass through your land. We shall not turn off into the fields or the vineyards. We shall not drink from the wells, but go by the sovereign's highway until we have passed by your border. But Sihon would not allow Israel to pass through his border. So Sihon gathered all of his people together and went out against Israel in the wilderness. And he came to Yahatz and fought against Israel. And Israel struck him with the edge of the sword and took possession of his land from the Arnon to the Wabag, as far as the children of Ammon, toward the border of the children of Ammon was strong. And Israel took all of these cities, and Israel dwelt in all of these cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon and in all of its villages. For Heshbon was the city of Sihon, the sovereign of the Amorites, who had fought against the former sovereign of Moab and had taken all of his land from his hand as far as Arnon. This is why those who speak in Proverbs say, come to Heshbon, let the city of Sihon be built and established. For fire went out from Heshbon, and a flame from this. For fire went out from Heshbon, a flame from the city of Sihon. It consumed Ar and Moab, the masters of the heights of Arnon. Woe to you, Moab! You have perished, O people of Chemosh. He has given his sons as fugitives and his daughters into captivity to Sihon, the sovereign of the Amorites. Then we shot them. Heshbon has perished as far as Dibon, and we laid waste as far as Nopah, which reaches Medeba. So Israel dwelt in the land of the Amorites, and Moshe sent to spy out Yazar, and they took its villages and drove out the Amorites who were there, and turned and went up by the way to Bashan, and Og, sovereign of Bashan, went out against them, and he and all his people to the battle of Edrei. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, do not fear him, for I have given him into your hand. with all of his people in his land, and you shall do to him as you did to Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon. And they struck him and his sons and his people until no remnant was left to him, and they took possession of his land. And the children of Israel set out and camped in the desert plains of Moab, beyond the Jordan of Jericho. Okay, so this, I'm imagining this is going to be the land that's given the ones who decide to stay on that side of the Jordan and not go. And so I mean, this is like right before they go over. Moses is probably going to die in the next portion, and then they're going to go over and take Jericho. I'm assuming it'll be interesting to see. So okay, awesome, Father. He's so good at keeping my timing. I don't use alarm clocks, and he just always keeps me on time, which is cool. So we have Judges 11, 1 through 33. So, and Yiftah, the Galadite, was a mighty brave one, but he was the son of a whore. And Gilad brought forth Yiftah, and the wife of Gilad bore sons. And when his wife's sons grew up, they drove Yiftah out and said to him, "You shall not have an inheritance in the house of our father, for you are the son of another woman." But who's his father? And Yiftah fled from his brothers and dwelt in the land of Tob. And worthless men banded together with Yiftah and went out with him. And it came to be for some time later that the children of Ammon fought against Israel. And it came to be when the children of Ammon fought against Israel that the elders of Gilead went to bring Yiftah out of the land of Tob. And they said to Yiftah, "Come, and you shall be our commander, and let us fight against the children of Ammon." And Yiftah said to the elders of Gilead, Did you not hate me and drive me from my father's house? Why have you come to me now? Why are you in trouble? Or come to me now when you are in trouble? And the elders of Gilead said to Yiftah, "That is the reason we have turned to you, that you shall go with us and fight against the children of Ammon, and be our head over all the inhabitants of Gilead." And Yiftah said to the elders of Gilead, "If you take me back home to fight against the children of Ammon, and Yahuwah gives them to me, and am I to be your head?" And the elders of Gilead said to Yiftah, "Yahuwah is witness between us, if we do not do according to your words." Then Yiftah went with the elders of Gilead to the people, and the people set him over them as head and commander. And Yiftah spoke all of his words before Yahuwah in Mishpah. And Yiftah sent messengers to the sovereigns of the children of to Ammon, "What is between you and me that you have come to fight against me in my land?" And the sovereign of the children of Ammon said to the messengers of Yiftah, "Because Israel took my land when they came up out of Mitzrayim," which we just, and from Arnon as far as Yabak and to the Yarden, and now give back those lands in peace. But Yiftah again sent messengers to the sovereigns of the children of Ammon and said to him, "This is what Yiftah said: Israel did not take the land of Moab, nor the land of the children of Ammon," because it wasn't their land. It was, "for when they came up from Mitzrayim, and Israel walked through the wilderness as far as the Sea of Reeds and came to Kadesh. Then Israel sent messengers to the sovereign of Edom, saying, 'Please let me pass through your land.' But the sovereign of Edom would not listen. And they also sent the sovereign of Moab, but he refused. So Israel stayed in Kadesh. Then they went through the wilderness and around the land of Edom to the land of Moab, and came to the east side of the land of Moab, and encamped beyond Arnon. But they did not enter the border of Moab, for Arnon was the border, of Moab. And Israel sent messengers to Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, sovereign of the Heshbon, and Israel said to him, 'Please let us pass over through your land into the place.'" Well, I guess it is considered their land at this time. But Sihon did not trust Israel to pass over through his border, and Sihon gathered all his people together, and they encamped in Yahatz and fought against Israel. And Yahuwah Elohim of Israel gave Sihon and all of his people into the hand of Israel, and they struck them. So Israel took possession of all the land of the Amorites and the inhabitants of the land. Thus they took possession of all the border of the Amorites, and from Arnon to Yabak, and from the wilderness to the Yarden. And now Yahuwah, Elohim of Israel, has driven out the Amorites from before his people Israel. Should you then possess it? Whatever Kamash, your mighty one, gives you to possess, do you not possess it? And all that which Yahuwah, our Elohim, takes possession of before us, we possess. And now, are we any better than Balak, son of Pisor, sovereign of Moab? Did he ever strive against Israel? Did he ever fight against them? While Israel dwelt in Heshbon and its villages, and in Aror and its villages, in all the cities among the banks of Arnon, for 300 years, they did you not recover them from within that time? So I have not sinned against you, but you are doing me evil by fighting against me. Let Yahuwah the judge you today between the children of Israel and the children of Ammon. But the sovereign of the children of Ammon did not listen to the words of Jephthah sent him. And the spirit of Yahuwah came upon Jephthah, and he passed through Gilead and Manasseh, and passed through Methbeth on Gilead, and from Methbeth on Gilead he passed on towards the children of Ammon. And Jephthah made a vow to Yahuwah and said to him, if you give the children of Ammon into my hands, then I shall be that whatever comes out the doors of my house, I hate this one, to meet me when I return in peace from the children of Ammon shall belong to Yahuwah. Oh, that's not. And I shall offer it up as an ascending offering. Jephthah then passed on towards the children of Ammon to fight against them, and Yahuwah gave them into his hands, and he struck them from Aror as far as Minah, 20 cities, and to Abel Keramim with a very great slaughter. Thus the children of Ammon were humbled before the children of Israel. What's sad is, if you don't know the story, when Jephthah came home to it, well, here it says, and when Jephthah came home to his house at Mizpah and saw his daughter coming out to meet him with the timbrels and dancing, now, except for her, he had neither son nor daughter. And it came to be, when he saw her, that he tore his garments and said, oh, my daughter, you have brought me very low, and you were among those who trouble me, and I have given my word to Yahuwah, and I am unable to turn back. And she said to him, my father, if you have given your word to Yahuwah, do to me according to what has gone out of your mouth, because Yahuwah has taken vengeance for you upon your enemies and the children of Ammon. And she said to her father, let this be done for me. Let me alone for 2 new moons, so 2 months. Let me go and wander on the mountains and bewail my maidenhood, my friends and I. Then he said, go, and he sent her away for 2 new moons. And she went with her friends and bewailed her maidenhood on the mountains. And it came to be at the end of the 2 moons that she returned to her father, and he did to her as he had vowed. And she knew no man, and it became a statute in Israel that the daughters of Israel went every year for 4 days to lament the daughter of Jephthah of Gilead. I'm not sure if he actually killed her, or I don't know, I just can't imagine, because the father would never be okay with sacrifice. So the Brit Hadashah, John 2, 1 through 12. There we go. And on the 3rd day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Yahusha was there. And both Yahusha and his taught ones were invited to the wedding. And when they were short of wine, the mother of Yahusha said to him, they have no wine. Yahusha said to her, woman, what is that to me and to you? My hour has not yet come. And his mother said to the servants, do whatever he says to you. And there were 6 stone water jugs standing there according to the mode of cleansing of the Yahudim, each holding 2 or 3 measures. Yahushua said to them, fill the water jugs with water, and they filled them with to the brim. And he said to them, now draw out and take it to the master of the feast. So they took it, and when the master of the feast had tasted the water that had become wine, and did not know where it had come from, though the servants had drawn the water new, the master of the feast called the bridegroom and said to him, every man at the beginning sets out the good wine, and when they have drunk, then that which is poorer kept the good wine until now. This, the beginning of the signs of Yahushua, did in Canath of Galilee, and manifested his esteem, and his taught ones believed in him. After this, he went down to Kephar Nahum, he and his mother and his brothers and his taught ones, and they were stayed not many days. So this is about, the rock giving water, wine. Interesting. So, well, thank you so much if you have been here with me today. I'm so blessed and thankful to be able to do these readings and record them. Father Yah, thank you so much for this recording. Thank you for the opportunity to read your word, to feast on your word, and to share it with others. May my words go out and as salt and light, and help me to reflect you well. And Father, touch everyone who listens to this recording and help give them a passion for your word, a passion, a hunger and a thirst to dig into your word and get it into them, to feast on it, so that they can live in covenant with you. In your son's holy name, Yahushua. Amen. Be blessed. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Bye.